What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain. Welcome to episode 97 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you like this podcast, subscribe, follow, and share the link with your friends, or click on the support link in this episode's description. Your donation of any amount could change a life. When we come back, we'll get into this episode entitled, Sign on the Window Says Lonely. Welcome back to episode 97 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast entitled, Sign on the Window Says Lonely. I want to give a big welcome to my friends in recovery from the U.S., South Africa, and Australia for their participation in this group. Guys, are you ready for this week's topic? Here goes. Our life in addiction is full of contradictions between what we say and what we do. An awesome example of this is from the Bob Dylan song, Sign on the Window. The first two lines say, Sign on the window says lonely, sign on the door says no company allowed. Can you share this tug of war in emotions in addiction? So lonely, but also wanting to isolate. And also, how did you get past this to value staying connected in recovery? Ben, would you like to start us out today? Sure would, David. This is a good one, but it's a tough one. It definitely requires digging up some of the memories of the past that got me where I was in addiction, but also challenges me in the present concerning some of the same isolation issues that still try to creep up and be in the room of my life now. I remember when I slowly began to become more and more dependent on drugs when I was younger. But it was more of a party scene, and I actually enjoyed being around people. I was the lead singer of a band, and we would go to parties where everything you could imagine happened. And that's where I wanted to go, but slowly and surely, the devil got me to a place where all I wanted was to be alone in a hotel room with just enough light to see the vein in my arm. I didn't want to be around other people. I wanted to have my drugs all to myself, which was a sense of calm, comfort, and escape. But thinking about it now, it's incredibly sad that all I wanted was the feelings that the drugs gave me. You see, when you get to that place and want to be alone, I think it's pretty sad. But it's real, and it happens every day all around us to people still caught up everywhere. Thankfully, the Lord rescued me from that place, and his answer to recovery and enjoying him was finding a healthy community. However, now if I'm not careful because of exhaustion from doing ministry and other things that require me to expend energy just to bless and help other people, I find myself still wanting to isolate and get away. I think that is healthy because we need time to be alone, to meditate and reminisce and to get a fresh perspective. But if I'm not careful, it can lead to becoming too recluse. So I guess the balance is knowing by talking to the Lord and finding out when I have isolated myself too much and when it's becoming unhealthy, and when I need to get back out and plug into community. Wow. Great start, Ben. I like how you reminded us that we may need to dig up the emotions of our past to be sure that they don't unravel our present. Harry, what do you think of this topic? Well, David, the emotions behind being lonely and wanting to isolate can be really awful, as I remember it very well. In the beginning of my recovery, the shame, embarrassment, and hurt made me withdraw from people, especially those I hurt. The loneliness turns into sadness at times when you find yourself all alone and being sober. This is when you start avoiding people even more and purposely isolate yourself from everyone because you feel too much shame to speak to people and don't want to speak about your past or your recovery. What worked for me was that I attended daily meetings or church services. In my area, there was always an NA, AA, or church service on specific days of the week. I started joining people like myself in recovery. I started having faith in the Lord and going to the midweek services, as well as I started building confidence. The people in my new church knew about me and my addiction, and they still welcomed me. I made new friends in AA and NA meetings, which helped me get back to being sociable again. After several months, I started to contact all the people I hurt to apologize and to make amends, finally getting a chance to repair relationships with my wife and family. Thanks, Harry. It is so important to stay connected and to stay openly honest in a safe environment. I'm glad you found yours. Adam, what do you think? Yeah, David, I can really relate to this. At times I feel alone, but it's because I cause the loneliness. I tend to get too focused on everyone else's problems and ignore mine. I tend to want to stay away from people because then I tend to fall back into my old ways. Then at times I beg for company and I can't find it, and that hurts. I'm trying to stay focused on my life at this time. I'm having some storms come my way, but I'm standing strong with God. Shaw, thanks, Adam. That really portrays the tug of war of emotions as we cause our own loneliness while we still beg for company. Charlie, can you relate to this? Sure can, David. I certainly feel that recovery is a nonstop tug of war. It's a tug of war on emotions and life balance for me. When I'm talking, people tell me not to talk so much. When I'm not talking, people say I must speak. When I'm hitting meetings and heavily involved in recovery, people say I need more home life. When I'm staying home, people say do more service and get back into meetings. When I do a lot of church, they say you don't need that recovery group. When I'm at the recovery group, they say you don't need religion. When I support others, I'm neglecting my personal care. When I'm participating and practicing personal care, they say I'm too selfish. When I'm telling all my shortcomings or disturbances, I'm told to get out of my head and get out of my butt, and no one really needs my self-pity. When I'm keeping all that stuff to myself, then I get angry, resentful, and turn to overeating or sin for comfort. I don't like to isolate, but it feels good sometimes because there's no noise, no rejection, no one to get angry at, no one telling me what to do, no one disappointing me with another game of phone tag or lack of support for what I got going on in my life. However, I've already learned that the lesson that I just can't do it on my own. Praise the Lord, I do desire to be with people. I long to help others. I love going to church and recovery events to be with others. Because of Jesus, I've learned there is a lesson in that tension the tugs of war cause me. There's healing in togetherness and the feelings of staying connected in recovery. Shaw, Charlie, you perfectly described that tug of war and the negative emotions that no matter what you do, you're going to be wrong in somebody's eyes. Wow. Dante, what do you think? Well, to be honest, David, I'm having trouble with this topic. I feel like I've become less duplicitous in the last 5 or 6 years of my life. I'm more aware of how my actions present to people, more aware of things I should and I should not do. I'm also more aware of the heart and mouth, my own that is, that condemn others on things that I myself would be guilty of. The thing I'm worst at, though, regarding the specific attributes you're mentioning in this topic, is wanting to be friends and be liked by others. And yet, how I carry myself with my level of intensity and sometimes narrowed directional focus, I don't leave room for the unspoken moments that actually build relationships. I tend to always be on a mission. Even if I'm not really on a mission, it's still how I roll. I think that insecurity ultimately comes and has been developed in me by treating people as idols, typically women. I am a man, that is clear, but my ability to build genuine relationships is difficult for me to do. At least it seems that way. I want to take things to a more deeper, genuine level, and I find most people really aren't up for that. But yeah, that's my perception. My actions, I believe, often say to others, I'm too preoccupied. And yet, I'm the one that is actually seeming disinterested in them when I desperately am seeking that relationship. Wow. Thanks, Dante. I can get that angst that you experience as you desire these deep connections, but that at the same time, your intensity of conviction can push people away. Eddie, what do you have for us? Well, David, guilt and a huge dose of paranoia associated with addiction gets you started on this rope of tug of war. When I started experimenting and still referred to it as a casual drug, we used to be a couple of guys having fun and really living high. Nightlife was amazing. Expensive cars, hotels across the country, wild parties. Then one day, I tipped over. Suddenly, that became too much for me. Before I knew it, I was on my own, chasing highs from dealer to drug dens. I found myself binging for days at a time. I was paranoid, so drug lords would give me my own room. At parties, I would disappear to toilets or anywhere I could get myself sorted. Life had become lonely. I had no friends. I rejected my family. I was hardly home, and when I was always ducking and diving to get a hit. The lows, the deep, dark lows. That's when suicide and self-hurt would start screaming at the top of its voice. I would cry and want to seek help so badly, but I just couldn't, because finding the next high always outweighed seeking help or even people to talk to. So my battle became my own. My highs were all selfish and my secret. I was too scared to allow anyone in because they might find out, and that would mean them accusing me of being an addict. Me? Never. It's all casual, just having fun. But then there's Jesus. I stayed in prayer at all times. I acknowledged Christ as my source, my help, my new high. I started spending time with my young family. They became and still are my best friends today. We started doing life together. That was my lifeline for a number of years. Then I ventured out, and all I felt was the yearning to let people see what God had for me. Still don't have many friends, but I can tell you this, the ones I do have will be there for a lifetime. Wow. Thanks for sharing that journey with us. It really is good to just follow that path, Eddie. Gary, would you like to close us out today? Yes, David. I learned in addiction, and after that, the turmoil that is loneliness has little to do with surrounding yourself with people and more to do with knowing what you should be doing and not doing it, or doing something that you know is wrong to do, but doing it anyway. That truly brings loneliness. that is the tug of war that isolates you from yourself. I knew heavy daily drinking would eventually finish me, but I drank regardless of the consequences. Did I want to finish myself? Initially, after my wife's sudden passing, yes, I think so. But when I was faced with death, I fought to survive. With the very important and much needed support from those who cared, I found God. My turmoil came as a direct result of turning to alcohol and my resultant acceptance of the distortion of my perceptions. I did not care about anything. But the peace I now feel after 14 months off drinking alcohol completely is attributed to God and His saving grace. Of course, I highly value the support and encouragement of a handful of people who genuinely care. You being one of them, David, and I thank you for that. Shaw. Thanks, Gary. I'm really humbled by that. And guys, I want to thank you so much as you let us all in to really feel that tug of war that goes on in addiction and that we still have to recognize and win in our recovery. Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you would like to join an online group or get one-on-one counseling to help on your journey of feeling lonely but wanting to isolate to feel safe, please message me on the link in this podcast or by email at davidfromatod@gmail.com or go to my website www.fromatod.org and click on the contact page. You can also keep in touch with what we're doing in From A to D by following me on Instagram at David From A to D. Tune in Monday for our next episode, and as always, stay safe and stay strong.